We have now surpassed 100 days in this current Trump administration, and I've noticed among my fellow Harris voters, some of us, not all of us, but a few of us, a kind of smugness, a kind of self-satisfaction, while acknowledging and being all too aware of what a shit show the last 100 days plus have been, what a complete disaster the Trump administration has been up to this point. All the lawlessness, all the turmoil, all the incompetence, all the embarrassing and enraging things that Trump and his people are doing. While acknowledging all of that, there's been a kind of, I told you so sort of attitude. And I don't know, I wish we wouldn't do that. Not because I have any problem with Schadenfreude, not because it's unseemly or it's taking the low road or any of that other horseshit, because when you ask Trump supporters a question like, "Are you sorry you voted for him yet?" 9 times out of 10, in fact, almost literally 9 times out of 10, as you're about to see, the answer to that question from the Trump supporter is going to be, nope. This is a piece from MSNBC by Jarvis DeBerry. Headline, Trump's approval rating is low, but good luck finding those who regret their vote. A noticeable contingent of Kamala Harris voters has spent this year demanding that people who didn't vote for her, whether for Donald Trump or another candidate, admit to a mistake that's not only hurting the country, but is hurting or will hurt them too. Social media feeds are filled with people citing the latest Trump outrage and mockingly asking Trump voters, "Did you vote for this?" There's been a new category of Schadenfreude-inducing stories focused on Trump voters who've lost their federal job, had a loved one snatched by ICE, or significantly suffered during the first few months of the administration. On top of that, some recent polls have found that Trump's approval rating is below 40%. However, in the main, the Trump voter with buyer's remorse is a mythical character, not unlike, say, the moderate Republican. The Public Religion Research Institute conducted a poll of more than 5,000 adults across 50 states between February 28th and March 20th and found that 92% of Trump voters are satisfied with their vote. There's that 9 out of 10 I was telling you about. Let's keep going for a little bit. More than that, the PRRI poll finds that just about everybody who voted in November is satisfied with their decision, including 95% of Harris voters and 85% of people who voted third party. It seems obvious why Harris voters are the least regretful. Her losing the election erased the potential for her to make any disappointing presidential decisions. It is remarkable, though, that after Trump has fired thousands of blameless federal employees, antagonized allies, rattled the stock market, shrunk the economy, eliminated a number of life-saving humanitarian aid programs, defied the courts, and put Fox News know-nothings in positions of power, a near identical share of his supporters suggest that they'd happily vote for him all over again. But PRRI's poll is consistent with a poll released April 14th by the University of Massachusetts Amherst that found that only 2% of Trump voters polled answered yes to "I regret my vote and would vote differently if I could." And both those polls are consistent with a survey the New York Times conducted among a focus group last month that found that none of the 13 independent voters who voted for Trump in November regrets not voting for Harris. Not the person who feels bad about the way things have been going, or the one who's frustrated, or the ones who feel pessimistic, worried, hopeless, or even lied to. There's a lot of social media saying, "Hey, are you Republicans or MAGA people regretting your vote?" A hopeful 55-year-old Latino restaurant manager said. And no, I'm not. As far as I'm concerned, he's not doing enough. So yeah, I'm saying we should stop asking Trump voters, do you regret your vote? Or incredulously turning to them and saying, did you vote for this? Stop appealing to their guilt or their second thoughts, because statistically speaking, they don't have guilt and they don't have second thoughts about voting for Trump. They may admit, some of them, that he's not doing a great job right now, but that doesn't change the fact that they're happy with their vote for him. They're not going to say, oh, he's doing such a bad job that I wish I had voted for Harris. And I realize it may seem dissonant coming from me when I have done 2 comedy sketches about a voter's remorse hotline where remorseful Trump voters are calling in and expressing their dismay at something that Trump is doing. But I think there's a difference between making fun of people who may regret their vote or may be dismayed by something that Trump is doing, despite the fact that they voted for him, and treating that group of people like a statistically significant portion of the population. There aren't that many of them. It's nice to have some schadenfreude. It's nice to look at individual cases of Trump voters who are now looking at things that Trump is actually doing and going, oh my God. It's fine to laugh at them because they're fools and they deserve to be laughed at. And hopefully they'll be laughed at for the rest of their lives for what they've done to all of the rest of us as well as themselves. Fuck them. Fuck them. But there's not enough of them to make any difference in the election. There's not enough of them to make it worth reaching out to them. There's not enough regretful Trump voters, regretful to the point that they would actually vote for the other party, regretful to the point that they wish they had voted for Harris. There's not enough of them probably to fill a fucking bingo hall, let alone turn the result of an election. So let's stop wasting our time rhetorically, just as people having arguments, trying to make points, reaching out to them and saying, oh, you regret your vote yet? Did you vote for this? Let's not do that just as private individuals, because it's a waste of time. And please, for the love of God, let's stop doing that as a party, Democrats. Let's stop trying to reach out to these people. Let's stop treating, the regretful, remorseful Trump voters. That's a great untapped resource. We can get some votes out of that. Trump is doing such a terrible job. Surely they realize that he's hurting them. All the people he's been firing, all the programs he's been cutting, all of the economic chaos he's been causing. Well, surely there's a huge mass of Trump voters who now realize the error of their ways. And if we just reach out to them, they will surely vote for us the next time. It's not going to happen. There aren't that many of them. There are certain anecdotal examples. There are the kinds of people that I've sort of mocked in my Voters Remorse Helpline skits. There are people like the Argentinian immigrants I just did a video about, who came to this country in the 90s and eventually became naturalized citizens. And they have a son who also lives in this country, who is a green card holder. He's not a citizen. He has a misdemeanor on his record. ICE picked him up in February, and he's been sitting in a detention facility in Georgia ever since. And his parents voted for Trump. And now they say, if we knew he was going to arrest our son, we wouldn't have voted for him. They voted for him because he said he was going to target immigrants, but they didn't think he was going to target immigrants like them. And now that they've realized he's targeting immigrants like them, now they say, if we had only known this, we would never have voted for him. But those people, those suckers, those fools, they're not the majority. They're probably not even a very significant minority of Trump voters. According to this PRRI poll in this article, 8% of the Trump supporters that were polled say that they regret their vote. 92% say that they're completely fine with it. It's a waste of time. Stop reaching out to them. Stop trying to turn them. Stop trying to flip them. Stop trying to get them to admit that they were wrong. If they admit that they were wrong, great. If they realize they fucked up, if they realize things are terrible and it's partially their fault because they voted for Trump, great. But stop reaching out to Trump voters as though you expect them to be repentant, because they're not. And they probably never will be. So especially in a political sense, especially in an electoral sense, as a party, as the Democratic Party, please, 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 can we finally let go of this fantasy that we're going to reach a whole bunch of disaffected Republicans and pull them to our side, and that's how we're going to win. It's not going to happen. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of effort. It's a waste of money. It's much, much better, much more productive to turn our attention to getting out the vote on our side, getting our people to the polls, and finding ways to inspire and organize and energize the progressives who already more or less agree with the Democratic Party on a bunch of stuff ideologically, but don't vote Democrat for any number of actually pretty sound reasons. They would never vote Republican, but they don't vote Democrat because they don't think the party represents them, because they don't feel as though their voices are heard in the party, because they don't think the party fights hard enough for whatever groups they identify with, because they don't think it makes that big of a difference whether a Democrat or a Republican wins, because they don't trust the party. And some of that is on them for being difficult to please and for having unrealistic expectations, but a lot of it is on the party itself. And it is a much better use of time and resources, I think, to reach out to those people, to try and get votes from those people, than to try and get votes from these mythical, regretful Trump voters. And I know Democratic strategists and people who are part of the Democratic Party establishment say that the reason that they don't reach out further to the left, the reason that they don't focus as much on progressives as they do on people in the center and moderates, is because people on the left aren't reliable voters. And historically, that's true. I acknowledge that. I admit that. People on the left are not reliable voters, and the further to the left you go ideologically, the less reliable they are. But I still think it is a much better use of resources to try and appeal to people over there than to these mythical, regretful Trump voters. Because no matter how unreliable they may be, no matter how difficult to please they may be, I guarantee you we will get more votes from leftists and progressives than we will ever get from people who are figments of our fucking imaginations.